The impact of Evergrande has created financial disasters to spread faster and more forcefully than Beijing's financial governors expected, putting pressure on them to move quickly to stop the contagion. But they cannot rescue Evergrande's creditors without also undermining their fight against bad debt. Policymakers in Beijing are in a tough position on what to do about Evergrande, the Chinese property developer whose slow breakdown has pierced the markets. Evergrande is the most indebted property developer in the world. Its on-balance sheet debts amount is nearly 2% of China's annual GDP, and its off-balance sheet debts add up to as much as another 1%. The company has $300 billion in liabilities, and its management has made it clear it doesn't have the means to pay its various lenders on time. That has investors inside and outside of China majorly worried, including about a potential contagion effect. Hello everyone, welcome to World of China, a channel to explore the blazing issues of China. In today's video, we are talking about China's Evergrande meltdown and why we should be worried about this event. So stay tuned with us and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This wouldn't be as much of a problem if Chinese property developers, state-owned companies, local governments, and even ordinary households were not drowned in extremely high debt levels. But because the Chinese economy has long been plagued by debt problems and moral hazards, the situation will be much more difficult for regulators to sort out. For the past several years, Chinese governors have worked hard, if unsuccessfully, to reduce the economy's over-reliance on debt. As part of this regulatory push, regulators realized what became known as the 3 red lines for property developers last year. These consist of hard limits on a company's debt-to-asset ratio, its debt-to-equity ratio, and its cash-to-short-term debt ratio. The 3 red lines almost instantly began to affect the operations of highly indebted developers. Because they were no longer able to borrow and in many cases were forced to pay down debt, they had to liquidate assets, often in fire sale conditions, and were sometimes forced to cut back on their operations. The resulting losses usually only worsened their reported debt ratios and put further pressure on them to cut back. Although Evergrande is the most visible of these large property developers and perhaps suffers from a greater financial crisis than any other, the impact of the 3 red lines on Chinese property developers has not been limited to Evergrande. Evergrande currently holds the dubious title of the world's most indebted real estate developer. Founded in 1996 by Hui Kaiyan, it has turned into one of the biggest firms in China and has in the process made Hui the 53rd richest person on Forbes Billionaires 2021 list and the 10th wealthiest on its China's Rich List 2020. The company currently has 1,300 real estate projects in 280 cities in China, according to its website. It is also involved in electric vehicle production, property management, film and TV production, theme park construction, life insurance, healthcare, football, and food and baby products. This real estate firm is in serious trouble. It failed to make interest payments to at least 2 of its largest bank creditors. It has a roughly $83.5 million bond interest payment due and faces another $47.5 million bond interest payment soon. Investors are worried an Evergrande debt failure could send shockwaves through the Chinese and global economies, much as Lehman Brothers did to the United States and the world in 2008. Now the real question, how much the Chinese government is willing to go to stave off the potential social and financial outbreak of a messy Evergrande collapse. Fears over a possible debt default affecting broader markets soothed partially after Evergrande said in a filing that it had resolved via negotiations an interest payment on one of its bonds that is due. But the company left to detail how much interest would be paid or exactly when, which could signal that it simply managed to postpone the payment that's due. Nerves steadied further after Bloomberg News reported that Beijing regulators told the embattled property developer to avoid an imminent default on its dollar bonds. There is concern the already slowing China economy will be affected further, and that could flow into other economies. The fact that China's economy is so huge could affect the rest of the world. If China were to have a serious economic issue because of China Evergrande, the rest of the global economy would have contagion from it. It turned out that the US banking industry was made up of a relatively small number of players whose assets, interests, and fates were more closely intertwined than many thought. When Lehman fell, it sent shockwaves through many other firms in the US and beyond. And thanks to globalization, the links between entire countries' economies are stronger and more diverse than ever before. So when the US experienced its 2008-2009 financial crisis, the ripple effects were felt in markets all over the world. Similarly, as China is the world's 2nd largest economy, what happens in China with Evergrande has the potential to affect financial institutions and nations around the world. It certainly disturbed markets earlier this week. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index fell 3.3% on Monday, and its property index fell a whopping 6.69% to hit a 52-week low. Both the broader index and the properties index closed up on Tuesday, however. Similarly, U.S. stocks saw their biggest drop since May on Monday, fired partly by Evergrande anxieties. Foreign investors are owed $7.4 billion in bond payments from Evergrande next year alone. At various points this year, they've panicked, sending trading of the bonds in the secondary market to new lows. Evergrande bond notes have at some point traded at 25 to 50 cents on the dollar. Trading in its debt was so frenzied at one point that regulators briefly put a stop to trading. The company's main share listing in Hong Kong has lost more than 3/4 of its value over the past year. Evergrande jitters also dropped over into the world's largest cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, which sank to $40,468 on Monday, according to CoinMarketCap. Foreign investors worry that if Evergrande fails, all the money they're owed will vanish into thin air. The authorities in Beijing have indicated that they're no longer willing to bail out foreign and domestic bondholders. In any bankruptcy circumstance, they would be low on the list of creditors to get any of the Chinese company's assets. So what is next for Chinese regulators as they assess the Evergrande disaster? This is such a complicated problem, with politically conflicting objectives that's very hard to predict just how Beijing will react. It's clear, however, that the regulations must act quickly to contain the spread of financial distress costs. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching the video. Give this video a big thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comment box. For more exciting videos, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon for notifications. I'll be back with another exciting video soon. Till then, check out our channel for more exciting videos and stay tuned.